Welcome back to Honest Brew, unfiltered conversations on business growth. I am Shell.
I'm Monique.
I'm Sarah.
Today we're talking about something that doesn't get nearly enough airtime, the loneliness of being a solopreneur. And before anyone clicks away thinking that this is going to be some woo-woo feelings only conversation, it's not. So let's dive in, ladies, because one of the things that when we were talking about this conversation that I was thinking about was some of the things that come up when you are lonely or when you are a solopreneur. And these are just things that just haphazardly happen, but it really suffers your bottom line. And I'll just name a couple of them. When you're lonely, your brand voice becomes inconsistent because you're second guessing everything. You're losing touch with why you started and who you're serving. Isolation causes you to basically chase trends instead of staying true to your true positioning. And your culture is just used when you're struggling, the whole business feels it. So just throwing those out there. Any thoughts initially, ladies?
Yeah, I think I can personally relate to being in a silo and feeling like I cannot be objective about my own brand. It's very difficult to be that way. And so you do start second guessing every communication that you have with clients or how you're talking on social media. And so it's like disconcerting, especially because I do branding for other small businesses. But to turn it around on yourself, it makes it really difficult and it can feel super lonely.
I am also a solopreneur. I used to have a business partner in which I still became lonely in that, which can be a whole other story. And I feel for me with
Mhm.
loneliness, it's like the isolation piece. I'm very much a yapper. I love talking. So I want to be able to talk to people who understand it, get it, can give me a different perspective, like help me get out of my own way. Cause I feel like as solopreneurs, it's so easy to be the own bottleneck and not know it. I know I crave from being called out. I know other people don't. And so when I'm in that space, I might not see it as loneliness. I might see it as like, I'm really stuck. I don't know how to get out of this. I'm second guessing everything I'm doing, losing sight of me. And it's just simply because I'm lacking that community piece. And
Mhm.
as human beings, community is so important. And especially with entrepreneurs, because you have to be a certain type of crazy to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and for some, really get you. I
Yes.
I totally lean on everything you guys said. Being in business for 27 years, I started growing my team a long time ago, but I definitely have my solopreneur point, so I totally relate. But what's funny is even now, some of those things that you pointed to, like being the bottleneck and stuff like that, that even is occurring just to help solopreneurs feel better. Some of this stuff will always be a problem when you're an
Yes.
entrepreneur. I mean, that's just part of the stuff. So, but the other thing, I really like that was pointed to was the isolation factor. And when we are isolated, things that also come up that I didn't mention was we get into imposter syndrome, which,
Mhm.
and a lot of us get imposter syndrome when we look at our social media. And so then we start trying to behave like other people because we don't think, or we don't record at all, or we don't post
Mhm.
anything at all. And so there's this affect that happens from those feelings, but we need to get ourselves out of isolation without feeling the need that we have to grow or expand our teams to do so. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what are some of those that help you guys?
Recently, well, this year I was in a mastermind class. And if you don't know what a mastermind is, it's a collection of like minded people that are kind of advising each other and helping each other with different problems and solutions that they may have. And so I found that environment like a really nice, warm community. You kind of feel like you're in this boat together. And, you feel good because you can provide solutions to some other people in the group. And then when you express your, challenge, you get answers in return that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. Otherwise, you wouldn't even need to be there. So I find that mastermind group was very valuable to me.
For me, it was me getting into networking. When I first started getting into networking, I was really just hungry for community. Like that's like what was a big driver is I'm like, I just want to be around other people who do similar things to me. I want to get really good at positioning myself as an authority, like nailing my pitch. Like that's how I met Shell is through networking. Started off with just like the free spaces. And then as time went on, when I became more grounded in my business, more like I need to be strategic now with my networking, I started investing in paid spaces because it does bring a different quality of person.
Mhm.
And I feel like it brings a different level of, I want to say respect, but it doesn't feel like the right word, but it's like we're all here for the same thing. Like there's very clear boundaries. Like, that's very slim, at least from I seen that someone's going to try and oh my God, sell to me on a coffee chat or spam me or put my email in their CRM and I'm getting spam. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a different quality of person that I've seen between like freed and paid spaces. But either option did help me not feel so alone.
Yeah, I started my business with joining BNI. That was one of the first things I did because I didn't want to do cold sales. And so networking has been something I've done from get go. I also found very quickly that diversifying my networking not only gave
Mm,
me an exposure to different types of people, but
Mhm.
also different types of community, as well as you don't
mhm.
want to just be networking in the same circle because
Yep.
you all know the same people and then you're not even a support for them connecting with people.
Yep.
But one thing I really loved about BNI that really aligned for me, and this is not a commercial for BNI guys, I'm just saying that was where I started. I could list off all the networking I've been in 27 years, but the givers get principle that comes out of BNI,
Yes.
the
Mm,
networking groups that I have found that are very successful in the networking, and I don't mean that they're successful as an overall organization. I mean the success of their members in the
mhm,
organization. It's because they teach that same principle. So I don't really see that principle as solely a BNI principle. But when you have a networking event that you go to and you have that person who's just shoving their business cards in everybody's face and then adding you to the list, then you're getting these random emails. It's like, guys, if you're doing that, stop it. Please just stop. Don't do that. Like, I got to where I didn't even bring business cards because I didn't want to even do that. Like, I didn't even want to actually give my business cards to everybody. So if I had them, why would I give them to some people and not others? So I got where I collected the people that I really wanted to continue to
Mm.
connect with. That's just a little networking tip. I've done it for a very long time, but there is such a thing. And what I feel, Sarah, you were pointing to is the commitment level in actually wanting to make meaningful connections versus just trying to get that quick sale.
yes.
And when you're talking about relationship marketing, it is committing to meaningful connections and it's the long game. But the long game
Mhm,
is worth it. I'm still in business and growing 27 years later. I attest to relationship marketing for that. I think the smaller business you are, the more that is the reason it happens. But then if you look at large corporations, a lot of the big stuff that happens to them is due to relationships. A relationship may look differently, but it's still connection is always that human factor. So anyways, what I kind of came up for me in that realm of things. Now, I think another thing that I don't think you guys mentioned was also having strategic alliances.
Mm. Yes.
So
Yep.
when you're not in a position to grow your own business, but you have certain businesses, and this is actually something even B&I teaches is like, who is your triangle? Like, who is your
Yes.
partnering
mhm,
relationship businesses that your people could use those services as well?
I wanted to touch point on the BNI thing because I also just recently joined BNI. And, I'm finding that it's like it's more about for me, it's like the industries that I wanna work in, kind of connecting with people in my group that are in those industries has been, like, an interesting tactic because, like, I'm starting to develop a relationship with different people in the group, and then I can see down the road, there's a woman in the group, for example, that does like physical therapy for like older people. And I love doing health and wellness stuff, right? So I've connected with her and I could see down the road, like maybe eventually doing like a project with her. Finding and then staying connected with people that are in industries that you're interested in developing. So not just like a direct line from A to B.
I did not join BNI. I will say BNI was like how I got my toes wet with networking. And that actually came through from a client who was like, oh, I think you'd be a great fit. And I've always been very transparent when doing networking that I want the relationship first. Like, even with my clients, I'm like, do we share similar values? Do we support people in similar ways? Not like, oh, they're also doing operations. That's me. It's more of like how they take care of someone. Like, you can tell the difference
Yeah.
between someone who just wants that invoice paid versus like they really care about their person's goals. So with networking and just even thinking about like my collaborative partners is I love collaborating with like business coaches or business strategists because I find they're the ones to call out where their clients being the bottleneck or being like, hey, you need more support in this different way. And business coaches and strategist consultants, they don't want to do the implementation work. So that's where I come in because I love getting my hands dirty. And bookkeepers, financial people are also really great people to connect with. I will say too, because my love language is active service. And it's like I've had to learn to be careful because like I will break my back for people and other people will not do that. And it's just about, I feel like across the board, just using discernment, and discernment becomes easier when you're really grounded in your values and your core beliefs, because that will anchor you when you feel really supported to when you're feeling alone and isolated too.
And I feel like we're getting a little bit more into the sales of networking where, I think when you're lonely, it also, I'm not saying that that's a wrong direction. I was just pointing to that. I also see networking as like, that's where you find your family, your entrepreneur family. That's where you get your support. Cause a lot of times when you're networking, you don't actually end up working for the people you're directly networking with. You're getting referred from people that they know, or the people they know, and they know.
Right.
But one of the key things I think with networking and with creating other entrepreneurial relationships is you get each other. You
Hmm.
also, it's someone you can call and say, hey, like, even though Monique and I have worked together, I think we're business besties. And I think like, because that's a person you can vent to. And it's also someone that they may have experienced in something, you may have experienced in something different, and you can come together and say, oh, like I ran into that situation, this is how I dealt with it. It also helps you not feel insane when things
Hmm.
happen. I'm a person who always had difficulty dealing with conflict. And I will say having the supportive people from the beginning was great in understanding how to deal with people who might be crazy, and you automatically as a business owner, you might go to a place of like thinking you're wrong or you
Right.
did something wrong because we second guess ourselves when we're by ourselves. But that person can reel us back and say, hey, no, like it's okay. It's also a person that you could choose to hold you accountable. Now, I know, Monique, you created an amazing group that I would love you to talk about.
Oh, yeah. So, and this is, I mean, I'm being completely transparent now. So, for years, literally, I had to rebrand myself and redesign my own website. And every time the topic came up, I would procrastinate and, oh, I have all these other things to do. So, I created a website accountability group where all of the women in our group, I think there were 5 of us, we were all at different stages of designing our own websites. And so it made like we met every 2 weeks and it was great because we would come together and someone was like, I don't know how to do this. And then someone else would be like, oh, I can help you. And it just was wonderful. And we all held each other accountable. And I'm the third out of 5 women in the group that have launched their new website. And so it was just, it took away the loneliness. We created our own community and we solved the problem. It was just a really great experience. So I think I've learned a huge lesson in that alone, where if you feel like you're spinning, creating, and it was free, like all of us were there because we wanted to be, we weren't paying anyone. And so it was just like a great, if you know people that are in a similar situation, holding each other accountable is like the best way to push everyone forward.
I love this because I've met business besties through networking. I've had amazing collaborations through networking. But what I wanted to bring is that one of my clients is also, I would say, one of my best friends. So, and the reason I wanted to like put this in is because I had a scenario with a potential client and I found myself trying to justify my timeline, trying to justify my investment. Like I was feeling a certain way, I was spiraling. And after talking to this client, she helped me see where I wasn't standing in my power, like embodying my confidence in my business, because I don't have to justify anything. It's my rate, it's my investment. And I wouldn't have known this if I didn't feel safe in a relationship to have someone reflect these things back to me. So I just wanted to share that, where it's like, even when I stop working with this person, she has stuck with me forever, whether she knows it or not, because she has helped me so much. And I want to say, like, when it comes to me hiring and to like bring this back to the loneliness, that's the same kind of relationship I want to cultivate with people I hire or work with, where it's like, we're working towards this goal. And also like, I see you as a person. Like, can I help you out? Like, this was my experience. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings. Life is going to be lifing, and business is a part of it. So it's like those relationships can really come from anywhere.
I would say a cautionary tale. I've become friends with like most of my clients because you have such an intimate relationship, and
Yep.
and it just happens. And that's where Monique and I grew our relationship. But there is times, because I've been in business for so long, that some relationships have soured, and that can happen too. I always say, like, yeah, my husband always said, "Don't do that at all." And I'm like, "No, that's going to happen anyway." But it's also like, guard yourself a little bit with people. Don't allow yourself to be fully vulnerable until you really know that that is a genuine relationship that could go deeper and wouldn't go to a bad place.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to say was, Sarah, I immediately reached out to you about collaborating because we had very complementary businesses where I was like, hey, we should do a workshop together, which then became birthing this podcast. And then we're like, well, we got to bring Monique into this too. But I'll say, if I was being totally connecting the lineage here, this podcast was birthed out of networking. So
Yes.
things that can come out of that, because even bringing Monique in was because we had that existing relationship and connecting that has nothing to do with your bottom line in sales. I want to move away from this and move into one thing that has served me really well is, what is the structure of my day? I do work at home. Not everybody does. I have a client that I coach consult that she realized she needed to go to a co-working space to be able to get anything done because she's a solopreneur. But I think that we do need to have some structure to our days. And I know that I had a very long time where I flowed like a bird in the sky, we bouncing off clouds. And yeah, I was not as productive as I should be or could be, especially someone with ADHD. Just saying. How about you guys? What is your experience with that kind of structure?
Yeah, I would love to talk about this. It's huge for me. So, when I first went out on my own, I actually did become part of a women's entrepreneurial community, and I loved it. It was also a co working space. And so I went there every day. Not every day. I think I went like 3 times a week or something. And it was, but I wanted to point out that the reason why that worked so well for me at the time is because I needed extra support developing my business still, my business idea, and what am I doing? And so I met, I would every day I would sit next to someone new and we'd start talking and and it was really helpful. As time went on, I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Now I don't want to chit chat. I mean, I do want to chit chat, but I want to be more productive. And I just have more of a clear vision. So I started working from home all the time because I felt like I could be very focused. I'm a self-disciplined person, so that was it was okay for me to work from home without, running upstairs to do laundry every 5 minutes. I could actually be productive at home. So it really helps to like kind of make that shift. But I guess I brought up both points of we're in the co-working space and working from home is because I do feel like it's has to do with your sort of general vibe. Like, are you a self-disciplined person? Do you think, are you distracted easily? Then maybe a co-working space or working from home could be a plus or minus depending on like who you are. I don't think there's one size fits all for everyone.
I agree. And I was the exact opposite of Shell. I was too structured. Like, I really was treating my business when I first started like a 9 to 5. And that, because in another life, I wanted a health coaching business. And I made myself a slave to my business. And that's not the reason I
Oh,
wanted a business. I wanted freedom over my time, my capacity, my income. And so for me, I needed to remind myself of why I wanted a business and give myself the permission slip to like, oh, I can go get a coffee in the middle of the day. I
Yeah.
could start at 11 a.m., not 6 a.m. Like, I have so much freedom that I wasn't allowing myself to experience. So for me, I really love having what I call fluid structure, where
Mm.
it's like I have my boundaries, I have the things I want to achieve, but I can be fluid in what task I get done first. How long do I want to spend on it? Do I
Yep.
need to push something? Like giving myself that freedom because especially like for me this year, I had health things going on. I started planning my wedding. I split with my business partner. So I had a lot of other factors that I needed to be fluid with. I could not be rigid because it would just burn me out and my business would suffer from it. So I feel like for all of us, it's like we adapt and change based on the season we're in and what we need at that time.
Yeah, I love that definition fluid structure or that name. I too work like that. I basically Sunday nights I sit down and I map out my days and then I write the things that cannot move. Like appointment, like my cat has an appointment at 4 o'clock, right? That cannot move. And so I write down all those things for the week. And then I go through and I'm like, okay, I have like 2 hours of time here. What am I going to put in that spot? And I let myself be a little bit flexible about what goes in that spot. And so that really has helped me still be productive and efficient, but do it within like these certain parameters. So I'm still getting all this stuff done by the end of the week that I wanted to, but I'm putting it together more like a puzzle than this regimented, like every day I have to do this. I did try the strict schedule. Like when I first started doing my own thing as Mojo Design, I just came out of working full time. So 9 to 5.
Mm.
And just like you, Sarah, I was like, I need to work 40 a week. And I start working at 9 and I don't stop till 5. And little did I know that when you have an infant, a newborn, you can't do that.
oh
So
my God.
I remember the moment where I was like breastfeeding while I was on a conference call and I'm like, what am I doing? This is crazy. So just like I value so much that fluid structure and being able to, still like be efficient and effective, but within a certain flexibility, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, see, that's how I
100%.
totally function in my schedule is I put a certain amount of like structure, like, and I decide that the few things that I want to absolutely get done that day. But I've tried the systems where I've tried to block out time for certain things, and that just does not work. I have to be in flow. But being a creative person, I just have to. Like flow is like an absolute. So but what ultimately the structure gives you though, it's in a way to be accountable to yourself. And that's a really important way to make sure that your business is moving forward and you're not getting caught in the I'm not accountable to anybody. I'm on my own. Like I can go do my dishes and da da da. Not saying that you can't, just saying that we can wrapped up in a lot of other things that might sound more interesting or is like a check off your list that would be easy versus facing something challenging that you're doing for your business or yourself. The other thing in this is I've found blocking off time for CEO. I call it CEO time. And actually, I encourage my solopreneur coaching clients to find a place to claim themselves a CEO, because what that does is
Hmm.
it breaks you out of that I'm just owning a job, because that's the only way that you really can grow a business is if you're viewing it as not just a job you own, but you're actually like, I'm growing this. And what CEO time though is to make sure that I am working on things in my business. Now, like Monique, I struggled with like the rebrand and the website and all that stuff. But there's a lot of other things as owners of our company that we would also put on the back burner that are actually very important as well. So especially communicating with our accountant, for example, making sure he has what he needs. But marketing stuff is important as well, and that's something that I know I've been trying to have just more accountability around. The reason I have a coach. So those are a few things that I wanted to highlight in that conversation. The other thing is that it's not just these relationships and these situations. I did want to talk about one thing I forgot to mention in that with those relationships we were talking about earlier. Learn from each other on your structures, get ideas from people. 'Cause
Mhm.
how I formulated my structure was also by talking to other people who had similar brains to mine. The other thing is that you get to where you're not just venting to each other, but you're actually creating a problem solving dynamic.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to pull that out and point to that before we moved into our final portion of this conversation, unless, of course, you ladies have other plans. But recognize the difference between being lonely and being alone. Like
Hmm.
Kira mentioned, she felt lonely in her business partnership. She wasn't alone.
Mhm.
But what we can do is we can view being alone as a positive thing. I know that when I'm alone, actually can be way more productive than when my child is around, my husband's around. Now we work both at home, but he is on the exact opposite of the house. So that is something that allows me to be way more productive because as a mother, you just worry about their needs and what they need and okay, they're around and and obviously Monique's son's around.
He shouldn't be, but he is.
And I do want to share because you talked about being having a baby during entrepreneurship. I do want to share this story, and my daughter will be probably upset that I shared this. But when she was a toddler, I had her in a room with me that was fully closed in, so it was totally safe. But I like nodded off the couch a little bit, and I woke up, and my laptop was on my coffee table. She had taken every key off the laptop.
Good luck putting that back on.
But yeah, I learned to keep my computer away from my toddler.
Oh
That
my god.
Oh my god.
but anyway, but also the other side of this that I would love Sarah to take is like the things that you could build in your business, even though I had that perspective of I'm just me. What do I need systems for? What do I need processes for? What are things that you would recommend, Sarah, as far as that world and being a solopreneur?
That's such a good question because when I think when everyone starts a business, they're solopreneurs, and I don't think we want to be solopreneurs forever. Like, we eventually want support in our business because, especially with operations, this is how I'm like, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because when you have more admin and operations tasks, that often means you're more in demand. People are coming to you. You're like the go to person. They're like, I want to work with you, I want to collaborate with you. That's the blessing side. Or more like, I say it's a blessing and a curse because it's showing that your business is growing and scaling. And at the same time, those are the things that are going to show you where your business is breaking. And the
Mhm.
beautiful thing of that is a software can handle those things for you, an automation, or a person. So when I always recommend to my clients, especially if they're newer, is you want to be planning for the future version of you, not the version of you now. So if you're like, oh, I would love to have a VA one day, what were the dreamy things you'd like them to do for you? Because then you can kind of start working backwards, looking at your processes and being like, okay, I would develop a standard operating procedure. So when I am ready to hire, I can set them up for success and I set myself up to feeling supported. So that's like one thing that I would recommend is you always want to be planning for the future version of you, which means I would say like an hour a week to do your SOPs, go through your own client onboarding, go through these own things so that you understand how things are working, because that's where you feel the most empowered in your business. So then when you are in that next stage of like, you want to get a new software because you have this new thing you want to do, you want to hire a person, you know how to delegate properly, you know the support you need. And that I feel is what can lead to such an empowering connections in your business, because the people you hire, you want to have an amazing relationship with. That's why I always say, don't focus on, do you know how to use Slack? Do you know how to use Riverside? It's more of like, what kind of working relationship do you want to have? What personality do you vibe with? Or like, I have ADHD, I'm neurodivergent. Like those are things that can help you find the magnetic people that are going to support you in your zone of genius so that they can be in their zone of genius. So it's like, do the tedious things now, because the future version of you is going to be like, thank goodness I did that before.
Absolutely. And with that, I just want to say the loneliness isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you've outgrown working in complete isolation. And I want to move into last sips.
What I want you to take away from this conversation is that no matter what happens, there are going to be seasons of loneliness. Just like with anything, we have cycled through things. And the way to get yourself out of that loneliness is to understand what kind of connection are you looking for. Yes, at the end of the day, a referral would be amazing, but deep down, you want more of that relationship of like, something's wrong, I have this go-to person to go to. And that doesn't mean I'm telling you to go invest in a coach, invest in this huge mastermind. It can simply be going to free networking events. That's how I got started. It could be going and getting a day pass to a co-working session. It could even just be going to your favorite coffee shop just to try it out. It's about getting you in spaces where people are doing similar things to you, they understand you. And also, I don't want you to devalue the relationships you have with people who don't get what you do, because I find those can be the most fulfilling relationships and the most inspiring for me as well. And so be creative in how you put yourself out in the world. It's just like dating. It's just like finding friends as an adult. It's just putting yourself out there and being very clear on like, what is my intention with this? What am I looking to get out of this? Because then that can, again, help you be magnetic to the things that you want to call in rather than calling in the things that you do not want. And to also just give yourself grace, to give yourself grace and peace and understanding that this is just a season. And that if you are feeling lonely, that tells me that there's something out of alignment that can be solved by putting you in a virtual space or an in-person space to solve that unfulfillment you might be experiencing. So with that, I hope to see you in the next one.